They love calling you the chosen one, don't they? Makes you feel special, powerful, untouchable. But that's the trick, isn't it? The moment you start believing it, the moment you start thinking you're different, the trap snaps shut. Because every crown comes with strings, every title comes with chains. They tell you you're chosen to lead, to rise, to inspire. But what they don't tell you is that being chosen also means being watched. Every move, every doubt, every weakness studied, not to celebrate you, but to use you. It's funny how everyone wants to be the chosen one. They crave it, chase it, dream of it like it's the ultimate validation that they matter. But no one ever asks what being chosen really costs. They see the spotlight, not the shadows behind it. They see the applause, not the silence that follows when everyone stops clapping. You think being chosen is a gift, but it's not always that simple. Sometimes it's the most carefully crafted trap ever made, wrapped in praise, sealed with promise. The moment the world tells you you're special, it starts building the walls around you. They call it recognition, but it's really containment. You stop walking like everyone else. You stop thinking like them. You start carrying their expectations like weights tied to your ribs. They don't even need to cage you, because you do it yourself. That's the beauty of the trap. It convinces you that you're free while tightening around your ego. You keep smiling, performing, convincing yourself you're in control. But deep down you feel it tightening, don't you? The invisible strings that pull your every move. Everyone says they want purpose. They want to be chosen. But purpose, real purpose, doesn't feel glorious. It feels heavy. It's not a crown, it's a collar. And the moment you start believing you were chosen for greatness, the world starts testing how much you're willing to lose for it. It won't take your fame right away. It'll start small, your peace, your privacy, your innocence, until you wake up one day, surrounded by noise, and realize you can't even remember what silence feels like. You've become what they wanted, a product dressed up as prophecy. The trap doesn't come from enemies. It comes from attention. People don't see the danger in admiration because it looks too beautiful. They say you're different, gifted, destined, and you start to believe it. You start thinking, maybe they're right. Maybe you are chosen. But what if the real test wasn't to see you succeed? What if it was to see if you'd stay human while everyone treated you like a god? Because the moment you start believing you're untouchable, you stop noticing the walls closing in. It starts slowly. You adjust your words, your tone, your face. You stop speaking your truth because you're afraid to lose their approval. You stop taking risks because failure isn't allowed for the chosen. You start living for the image, not the reality. You think you're protecting your role, but you're really protecting your prison. Every step you take toward perfection is another step away from freedom. Because the chosen one can't afford to break down, right? Can't afford to doubt, to feel, to fall. That's how the trap works. It convinces you that authenticity is weakness. And the cruelest part, the world doesn't set the trap to destroy you. It sets it to feed on you, on your energy, your drive, your fire. They call it admiration, but it's consumption. They don't love of you. They love the version of you that makes them feel something. They love the strength you show, not the scars that made it. They love your light, but only if it doesn't blind them. And you, desperate to keep being their chosen one, keep dimming yourself to make everyone comfortable. That's how the trap holds you, not by force, but by approval. You start to notice it when things feel wrong, but you can't explain why. The compliments feel hollow. The applause sounds distant. You achieve more but feel less. You smile but don't feel it. That's when you realize the trap isn't a cage around you. It's a script inside your head. It's that voice whispering, "Don't mess this up. They're watching. Don't disappoint them." You become a performance that never ends. And even when no one's around, you still play the part. That's what being chosen really means. It means being watched. It means living under invisible eyes, judged for every crack, every tremor, every human moment. The higher they lift you, the less they let you breathe. And the worst part, you start doing it to yourself. You become your own captor, punishing yourself for being imperfect in a world that only loves you for the illusion. But maybe, just maybe, that's the point. Maybe being chosen isn't the blessing they told you it was. Maybe it's a test disguised as attention. A trap meant to see if you'll trade your truth for their approval. Because the real danger isn't the one who sets the trap. It's the one who smiles while walking into it, thinking it's destiny. Admiration is the softest kind of poison. It doesn't kill you fast. It seeps into your system. Sweet and slow, until you can't tell the difference between love and control. People think manipulation always comes with threats or force, but no, the best kind comes with applause. The kind that makes you feel seen, valued, celebrated. You start believing you're special, and maybe you are. But the problem is, so do they. And once they see you as something worth watching, they'll never stop watching. That's when admiration stops being appreciation and starts becoming ownership. They don't cage you with chains. They cage you with compliments. They call you inspiring, different, the one who'll change everything. Sounds beautiful, doesn't it? But there's a hidden rule behind every compliment. Stay that way. Don't mess it up. Don't change. Don't fall. Don't fail. Because the moment you stop being who they need you to be, the admiration turns into disappointment. And you can't handle that, can you? Not after they built you up. So you start shaping yourself around their expectations. You start performing for the praise, not for the purpose. That's the trap. Not the hate, not the enemies, the love. The way they look at you when you're at your best. The way they talk about you when you succeed. It becomes your oxygen. And when it disappears, you choke. You can't breathe without it. So you start chasing their approval, like it's survival. Forgetting that once you depend on their praise, you've already handed them control. Because they don't have to demand anything from you. All they have to do is stop clapping, You ever notice how admiration feels warm at first, like a spotlight, comforting, validating? But stay in it too long, and it starts to burn. You start losing the shape of who you are outside of it. You stop asking what die you want, and start asking what they expect. You tell yourself you're inspiring them, but really, you're becoming their reflection. You're performing a role they wrote for you. And the longer you play it, the harder it gets to remember who you were before the applause started echoing in your head. And that's the clever thing about control. It doesn't always come with chains. It comes with L's need. They make you need to be loved, need to be recognized, need to stay perfect. They build you up so high you start policing yourself. You don't even need them to silence you anymore. You do it willingly. You stop speaking your mind because honesty might make them uncomfortable. You stop taking risks because failure might make them look away. You stop being real because real doesn't always get applause. The scariest thing about admiration is that it feels good. It feels right. It feels like the world finally sees you. But admiration isn't love, it's fascination. And fascination fades. The moment you stop entertaining, the moment you stop fitting the narrative, they'll find someone new to worship, and you'll be left there broken, wondering what went wrong. The truth, nothing went wrong. You just stopped being who they wanted you to be. They'll call you ungrateful when you try to step away. They'll say you've changed, that fame got to your head, that you forgot where you came from. But really, all you did was stop performing for their comfort. Because that's what admiration demands. Consistency, not authenticity. They don't love your truth, they love your image. They don't love your chaos, they love your calm. They don't love your pain, they love your presentation of it. The moment you break the illusion, you become disposable. You see, control isn't always loud. Sometimes it's silent, seductive. It makes you think you're choosing your path, when really you're walking the one they paved for you. And it's not because they hate you. It's because they need you. You're their symbol, their example, their escape. They feed off your story to fill the holes in their own. You become a mirror, reflecting the things they wish they were brave enough to be. And mirrors aren't allowed to move, are they? So you keep shining, smiling, staying perfect. You tell yourself it's your duty, your destiny, but deep down, you feel it. The tension, the pull. That small, quiet part of you whispering that this isn't freedom, it's performance. That maybe all that admiration isn't lifting you up. It's pinning you down. Because when too many people look up to you, you stop looking up for yourself. And that's how it happens. That's how control is built. Not with fear, but with love. Not with threats, but with praise. They hand you the crown, and you wear it proudly, not realizing it's a leash. You think you're chosen, but really, you're owned. The real battle was never out there. It's always been inside your head. People talk about enemies, critics, doubters. Like those are the ones that break you. But they don't. Not really. The outside noise only echoes what's already whispering inside. The real war begins the moment you start believing the illusion they've built around you. That's when you stop fighting others and start fighting yourself. You start confusing who you are with who they think you are, and that's when you begin to disappear. It starts small, subtle. A voice that says, "Don't mess this up. You have to stay perfect." You start second, guessing your own instincts, filtering every word before you speak. You can't offend, can't falter, can't fail. Because failure isn't allowed for someone like you, right? You're chosen. You're supposed to be the example, the symbol, the one who never cracks. But that pressure, it eats at you. It turns into paranoia. You start wondering what happens if they see through you. What happens if they realize you're human? That's the trap. The fear of being real. The moment you believe the illusion, you start protecting it instead of yourself. You become your own warden. Every thought has to be polished, every emotion rehearsed. You wear a mask, and it's glued so tight you forget what your face feels like underneath. And the worst part, people cheer for that mask. They love it. They reward it. They say you're disciplined, composed, flawless. But what they're really admiring is your control, not your courage. Because courage is messy. Courage breaks things. Courage doesn't fit neatly into the image they've built around you. So you trade courage for composure, truth for approval, freedom for perfection. And perfection, it's the sweetest poison of all. It convinces you you're in control when you're actually enslaved. You start chasing it like a ghost, knowing deep down you'll never catch it. But you can't stop, because if you do, everything collapses. That's what the illusion does. It convinces you your worth depends on performance. You start mistaking peace for progress. You think if you keep pushing, keep pleasing, keep pretending, maybe the war inside will quiet down. But it doesn't. It grows louder, sharper, crueler. The mind is a tricky battlefield. It doesn't fight fair. It attacks from angles you didn't know existed. One moment you're proud of yourself. The next you're questioning if any of it means anything. One mistake feels like proof you were never worthy in the first place. One failure feels like the world will forget your name. That's the cruelty of the illusion. It makes you think your entire existence depends on staying perfect in a world that profits off your flaws. You're not living anymore. You're performing survival. You start noticing things that don't make sense. You achieve more but feel less. You win battles but lose yourself. You get applause but can't sleep at night. Every victory feels hollow. Every compliment feels heavy. Because deep down, you know they're not cheering for you. They're cheering for the image of you. And that image is suffocating you. But you can't destroy it, can you? Because what would be left? That's the question that keeps you trapped. The fear that without the illusion, you're nothing. So you keep fighting yourself. You argue with your reflection. You try to silence the thoughts that tell you this isn't who you really are. You drown them with work, attention, success. But the quiet moments always come. Late at night, when the world stops watching, and it's just you and your thoughts. That's when it hits. The realization that the person everyone loves doesn't exist. That you've spent so long maintaining the illusion, you've forgotten the truth it replaced. And here's the cruel twist. The more you fight to protect the illusion, the weaker you become. Because the illusion feeds on fear. It grows every time you doubt yourself, every time you silence your truth. It keeps you chasing validation, approval, perfection. All the things that make you feel powerful, but keep you powerless. You start to forget that the real power was never in being flawless. It was in being free. But freedom scares you, doesn't it? Because freedom means losing control. It means letting the world see the cracks, the mess, the chaos. And you've spent too long pretending those didn't exist. That's the real trap. Not the fame, not the pressure, not the expectations, but the belief that you can't exist without them. That you need the illusion to survive. That if people saw the real you, they'd walk away. But maybe the ones who would walk away were never for you to begin with. Maybe the war inside isn't meant to destroy you. It's meant to free you. Because once you see the illusion for what it is, it stops being a prison. It becomes a choice. And the only thing standing between you and peace is the courage to stop believing the lie you built your life around. Every title you wear demands something in return. You think power comes for free. You think recognition doesn't cost anything. Every label you accept, every name they give you, leader, savior, hero, comes with invisible chains. They don't tell you that part, do they? They make it sound beautiful. They make it sound like a gift. But gifts like that always come wrapped in expectations. They don't want you. They want what you represent. And the more you try to live up to it, the further you drift from who you really are. It starts with a small compromise. You tell yourself it's necessary. You adjust your words, soften your truth, because you don't want to disappoint anyone. You tell yourself it's just this once, just to keep the peace. But once turns into twice, and twice becomes habit. Before you know it, you're living for applause, not authenticity. You smile when you're breaking inside. Perform when you want to scream. Pretend when you want to disappear. Because the title won't let you feel. The image won't let you crack. The mask won't let you bleed. The moment you become something, the world stops seeing you as someone. You turn into a symbol, a story, a projection of their needs. They look at you, and they see hope or power or salvation. Never pain, never doubt, never exhaustion. They love the version of you that serves them and discard the one that doesn't. That's the curse of the chosen. The world takes from you until there's nothing left but echoes. And you can't even blame them, can you? You gave them permission. You handed them the pen and let them rewrite you into their fantasy. You start carrying the weight of everyone's expectations. They expect you to know what to do, what to say, how to act. You become their compass, their anchor, their excuse not to face themselves. They call it respect, admiration. But what it really is dependency. You're no longer free to be flawed. The moment you falter, they turn on you. They say you changed. They say you let them down. But what they don't understand is that you were never supposed to be their hero. You were just trying to survive your own storms. And the more they worship you, the lonelier it gets. Because the higher they lift you, the harder it becomes to be seen. They look up to you, but they never see you. They love the reflection of their hopes, not the reality of your pain. You start to fade behind the image, trapped in a spotlight that burns hotter every day. You want to scream, but screams don't echo in adoration. They vanish beneath the clapping. And when you finally do stumble, when you can't hold it all together anymore, they call you weak. Hypocrite. Fraud. They forget you were human before they made you holy. You start resenting the title, but you can't let it go. It's all you've got left. It's the only thing that gives you meaning now. You've built your whole existence around being that person. And even though it's killing you, you cling to it because without it, you'd have to face the truth. You don't know who you are without the performance. You've spent so long pretending to be invincible that the thought of being real terrifies you. So you keep playing the part, keep smiling for the crowd, keep drowning quietly under the applause. Every title is a trade. For every ounce of admiration, you give away a piece of your soul. For every cheer, you sacrifice another layer of truth. They build you up to tear you down, and when you fall, they'll call it a tragedy, not realizing they wrote the script. And yet, a small part of you still wants their love. That's the cruelest part. You know it's fake, you know it's conditional, but it still feeds something in you. Something broken, something hungry. You tell yourself it doesn't matter, but the emptiness grows louder when the noise fades. The title owns you now. It dictates your choices, your tone, your every breath. You can't act without considering how it will be perceived. You can't speak without wondering who it might offend. You can't rest without feeling guilty for not performing. You become a prisoner in the palace you built, and the walls are made of expectations, not stone. You could walk out any time, but you don't. Because outside those walls, you'd have to face the silence, and silence exposes everything the noise helped you ignore. The world will always demand a version of you that benefits them. They'll celebrate your strength, but fear your truth. They'll tell you to inspire them, not to disturb them. They'll say they love authenticity, but only when it's filtered, rehearsed, controlled. The moment you show them the raw, unpolished version, they'll flinch. Because the real you doesn't fit the story they told themselves. And that's the thing about titles. They don't free you. They frame you. You become trapped inside the very image they built to honor you, wearing your own name like a disguise, trying not to suffocate beneath the weight of their belief. Validation. Such a dangerous drug, isn't it? The sweetest poison dressed as love. You think it's harmless. Those claps, those nods, those little words that tell you, you're doing great. But slowly, quietly, it rewires you. You stop chasing purpose and start chasing approval. You stop doing what's right and start doing what looks right. And before you know it, Every move you make isn't about truth anymore. It's about applause. You tell yourself it's for inspiration, that you're doing it to motivate, to lead, to help. But deep down, you know it's not them you're trying to convince. It's you. Validation feels good because it hides the emptiness for a while. It gives you a hit of importance, a momentary illusion that you matter. The problem is, it fades fast. And once it fades, you're left begging for more. You start performing for eyes instead of meaning. Every silence feels like rejection. Every disagreement feels like betrayal. You need them to keep believing in you. Because somewhere along the line, you stopped believing in yourself. The trap tightens with every cheer, every compliment, every heart-shaped lie they feed you. They don't know it, but they own you now. It's funny how easy it is to lose yourself in the noise. You start curating your life, polishing your words, dressing your pain in poetry so it's easier to swallow. You learn to hide the cracks, to fake the strength. You tell yourself it's strategy, professionalism, image. But it's fear. Fear of not being enough without their praise. You've turned yourself into a product, and their validation is the currency. You measure your worth in views, in likes, in reactions, in people who barely know your name. They clap for your image, not your scars. They love your performance, not your truth. And that's the cruelest part. You help them build that illusion. When you start mistaking validation for purpose, you lose the sound of your own voice. Every decision starts to depend on what they will think. Every action has to be justified, explained, approved. You stop living, and you start negotiating your existence. And it's exhausting, isn't it? Always trying to prove something. Always trying to stay liked, understood, accepted. But the truth is, no amount of approval will ever fill the hole left by self-doubt. It's a black hole, and the more you feed it, the hungrier it gets. You begin to realize how fragile the whole game is. The same people who lift you up can drop you the moment you stop fitting their expectations. They love consistency, not honesty. The second you change, the second you evolve, they call it betrayal. They don't want growth. They want predictability. You stop existing as a person and become a mirror that reflects their comfort. And when you stop reflecting it, they shatter you. You think it's hate, but it's not. It's disappointment. You stop being who they needed you to be. You stopped feeding the illusion. And what does that do to you? It turns you cold. You start distrusting everyone. You question every compliment, every smile. You can't tell if they love you or the version of you that benefits them. You smile back anyway, because the silence of disconnection feels worse. You've been programmed to need their attention, to crave their reassurance like oxygen. Without it, you feel invisible, forgotten, empty. You think being ignored is death, when really, it's freedom trying to whisper your name. You see validation is a master illusionist. It makes you feel powerful while it steals your strength. It tells you that you're seen, but it blinds you to your own reflection. It's a trap that doesn't cage you. It convinces you to cage yourself. You lock yourself in an endless performance, changing masks for different crowds, pretending it's all part of the plan. You tell yourself it's normal, that everyone does it. But deep down, you remember what it felt like before the noise, when you created, spoke, acted. Not for attention, but for expression. When you didn't care who was watching, because you actually meant what you said. That's the moment the illusion starts to crack. When you catch a glimpse of who you were before they told you who to be. You realize how much of your soul you've traded for claps that echo for a second and fade like smoke. You realize that validation was never love. It was control disguised as connection. The people who truly care for you don't need you to perform. They don't require perfection. They don't clap when you pretend. They stay when you fall. But the ones who only show up for your shine will vanish the moment the light flickers. And maybe that's the point, to see who stays when the performance ends. Validation builds cages out of compliments. It teaches you to measure yourself by reactions instead of reflection. It makes you terrified of silence, because silence doesn't feed your ego, it confronts it. But silence is where truth grows. Silence is where purpose hides, waiting for you to stop performing long enough to hear it. You don't need applause to matter. You don't need approval to exist. But you've forgotten that, haven't you? Because they made you believe that worth comes from being wanted. And now you're standing in the middle of their cheers, wondering why you still feel alone. That's what happens when validation becomes your master. It gives you everything you thought you wanted, but takes everything you truly needed. And the scariest part, you start thanking it for the privilege